Hello YouTube, how's everyone doing? It's Professional here. Welcome back to my playthrough of Ace Attorney. So we're almost done with this, doing the final DLC case, and we're on the trial now. So let's do Turnabout Time Travel, let's go to trial and see what's going on. So the one thing we found out yesterday is that Sorin was there at the crime scene. I only hope I can get some testimony from him that'll get to the heart of the matter. Mr. Wright. Good morning, Ellen. Look, I'm afraid you might not like the result of today's trial. Nevertheless, don't tell me you're still thinking of going that route. Sorin is innocent. He can't be found guilty. Take me instead. Ellen, please. Try and get a hold of yourself. I believe in Sorin with all my heart. So how dare you doubt him? Regardless of which one of them is found guilty today, going to be devastating for Ellen, isn't it? We'll just have to do everything we can. That's the best we can do, you know. The trial is about to begin, Mr. Wright. Alright, let's go, Maya. Yeah. September 23, 9 a.m. District Court. Courtroom number 6. Day 2 court is now in session. All rise.
Court is back in session for the trial of Ellen Wyatt.
The defense is ready, Your Honor. The prosecution is ready, Your Honor.
Let's see now. Where were we?
In yesterday's session, we found out about the Sprocket family's conspiracy to cover up the murder of Dumas Gloomsbury with a second reception. Taking advantage of her collective shock, the defense, as usual, made a nonsensical claim. Namely, that there was a third person present who struck the victim. Hey, don't try to make it sound like I made it all up. The defendant herself made a statement about the existence of a third person, and further investigation has only proven her statement to be true.
Then I presume the defense intends to focus on proving the identity of this third person. Is that alright with you, Mr. Edgeworth?
Indeed, Your Honor. And this is the part of Ace Attorney that I would say is one of the most unrealistic, because even though the game's pretty unrealistic in trials, is the purpose of the defense is to create doubt. That's the whole purpose of the defense, is to prove that your client could not have committed this crime. But just because, and if you create doubt, if you show that your client could not have committed the crime, you don't have to show who did it, who really did it. You don't have to prove that. But the judge is like, you have to prove who this third person was, but you don't really have to. The only purpose of the defense lawyer, the defense attorney, is to, you know, create doubt. That's the their only purpose. In fact, I predict that the defense will most likely attempt to name Mr. Sorin Sprocket as the true culprit. How did you... The driver during the accident that killed Mr. Sprocket's sister was the victim. Therefore, Mr. Sprocket had a motive to murder Mr. Gloomsbury. That's what you plan to assert, is it not, Mr. Wright? Am I that transparent? Come now, Mr. Wright, did you really think the police wouldn't uncover this information? Well, I don't know, the police have been pretty stupid a lot of times in the Ace Attorney games. Congrats on getting it, in one, Mr. Edgeworth. But... You're wrong. Sorin didn't do it. He's innocent. Miss Wyatt, please. He's innocent, I tell you. What is this, Mr. Wright? I thought your claim about the existence of a third person came from the defendant. It did. This is just a minor hiccup. Minor hiccup.
Did you not discuss your strategy for today with the defendant, Mr. Wright?
Starting off on the wrong foot again is seriously cutting into my lifespan. It would appear that the defense is in disarray. Therefore, the best way to clear things up is to ask Mr. Sprocket himself what happened. Your Honor, the prosecution would like to call Sorin Sprocket to the stand. What?
Very well. Bailiff, please bring Mr. Sprocket to the witness stand.
And Sorin has honestly been pissing me off because he's just been so uncooperative in this case. Of course, he's there with the notebook again.
Witness, please state your name and occupation.
Don't tell me he's gonna throw a paper airplane. Oh.
Oh! There's something written on this paper airplane. Let's see. Sorin Sprocket, Managing Director of Sprocket Aviation. Mr. Sprocket, please give your answers in words, not paper airplanes.
Now then, Mr. Sprocket. Please tell that doubting lawyer there what really happened at the time of the crime. Well, Mr. Sprocket? Mr. Sprocket! Alright. Grr. Even Edgeworth's getting pissed off. You want me to talk about what happened when the crime occurred? In other words, after the first wedding reception. When Ellen and I were in the reception hall, right? Not even the power of the court can stop him from marching to the beat of his own drum. So, about Sorin is, I don't think that Sorin is the killer. I think that the killer is Pierce Nickety. But I think that he's somehow involved, or at least he knows something. He knows something that he's not telling the court. What Sorin remembers. I was stabbed by Dumas in the reception hall, and I collapsed to the floor. The next thing I saw was Ellen and Dumas in the Vista deck. I knew Ellen was in danger, so I headed for the Vista deck. But when I got there, Dumas was already... I don't want to believe it, but it must have been Ellen. Nothing else makes sense. Well, yeah, throw your fiancé under the bus there. You're turning out to be a great husband. Wait just a minute here. You actually think Miss Wyatt killed the victim? That's right. Dumas was killed by Ellen. This is unbelievable. How can you suspect your bride, the woman you love?
Objection!
Oh well, Edgeworth is doing it too. The truth can be cruel. Miss Wyatt, you must be very upset. Is there anything you wish to say? No, I can't believe this. Sorin, I thought that at least you would believe in me. The best way to, now to show your love for your groom is to admit your guilt and try to atone. Sorin. Yeah, Ellen is crushed right now. Mr. Edgeworth, I haven't even cross-examined the witness yet. And quit picking on the clearly distraught. Yeah, that's not cool, that's so not cool, Mr. Edgeworth. Court is where we seek the truth. And the truth is unyielding, even to the, truly pitiful.
Mr. Edgeworth, I find it distasteful to make a lady cry.
And two, Your Honor? So, what are you going to do, Nick? If the third person Ellen saw on the Vista deck was Sorin, then we have to prove Sorin was there at the time of the murder. I don't see any obvious inconsistencies in his testimony, but we have to push forward. What Sorin remembers. I was stabbed by Dumas in the reception hall, and I collapsed to the floor.
Hold it!
Please tell me everything you can about when you got stabbed. After the reception, Ellen and I were enjoying a moment alone in the reception hall. Then Dumas appeared and stabbed me. He grabbed Ellen and the timekeeper and left the reception hall. I wonder what that yellow tank on his back is for. Did Mr. Gloomsbury say anything at that time? I don't remember. After I was stabbed, I was immobilized by the pain. I see. The next thing I saw was Ellen and Dumas on the Vista deck.
Hold it!
The Vista deck, huh? But it was nighttime then. Could you really see them in the darkness? The moon was out, so I could see them clearly. From the looks of it, Dumas was trying to push Ellen and the timekeeper off the side. So you saw the defendant about to be thrown off the airship, you say? That's right. In such a desperate situation, it would only be natural for her to fight for her life. And the murder weapon was right there within her grasp. Ugh, this isn't going well at all. I've got to do something fast. I knew Ellen was in danger, so I headed for the Vista deck.
Hold it!
I understand that your bride was in danger, but were you really able to move with a stab wound to the gut? I was desperately trying to push the pain out of my mind. I see. So adrenaline kicked in and gave you strength. Is that right? I don't see much of anything in this statement I can refute. That's right. I almost passed out several times as I made my way into the Vista deck. But now here's a really good question to ask. Why did Sorin not seek medical attention? That's what the really important thing to ask. Because he got stabbed, and he went for like a day without medical attention, so why did he not get medical attention? That would be a really good question to ask him. But when I got there, Dumas was already... Are you absolutely sure, Mr. Sprocket, that by the time you got to the Vista deck, the murder had already been committed? Yes. But the Vista deck is just on the other side of the glass window in the reception hall. Shouldn't you have been able to get there right away? Mr. Wright, have you investigated nothing? The only way to the Vista deck is to go through the hold and take the lift. No matter how much one hurries, it would take at least 10 minutes. And remember that remember here that the elevator was all bloody. Remember that too. There's something there. Well, that's unhelpful. But Sorin had to have gotten there before the murder, or my claim won't stand. Do you have any ideas for me, Maya? It's definitely easier to prove that someone did go to the hold than not. I mean, you can't leave anything if you don't go someplace, right? Can't leave anything. Wait a minute. I think Maya's onto something here. The lack of a certain something actually proves that Sorin didn't go to the hold. What's the matter? Are you stumped already? No. I'm far from stumped, Mr. Edgeworth. I know for a fact that Mr. Sprocket didn't go to the hold. You and your paper thin bluffs. Mr. Sprocket's bloodstain in the lift proves he went through the hold. So what possible proof could you have that he did not, in fact, go through there? You want proof? You got it. You can do this, Phoenix. There's gotta be proof that Sorin didn't go through the hold.
Well, Mr. Wright?
This proves that Mr. Sprocket didn't go through the hold. Oh, the hold entry, right. There's Pierce, Nickety, Dumas, Gloomsbury, and Ellen Wyatt. The hold entry.
Take that!
As anyone can see from the hold entry record, there's absolutely no mention of Sorin Sprocket entering the hold. The defense asserts Mr. Sprocket used a different route to get to the Vista deck. You can assert all you want, Mr. Wright, but can you actually prove another route exists? Can I prove the existence of another route to the Vista deck, you ask? Let's look at the map. Okay. Is there another route to the Vista deck? Think about this one. Cabin hold. Vista deck. Hall. gonna save right here. I can. I can prove it. Even if it's just a bluff, I have to present something. Anything that could prove the existence of a faster route to the Vista deck.
Very well then, Mr. Wright. Show us how Mr. Sprocket got to the Vista deck.
Mr. Sprocket made for the Vista deck through... I wonder if the clock could actually be a secret passage. Try right here.
Take that!
Save his bride from danger, Mr. Sprocket. Opened the escape hatch and made his way along the outside wall of the Vista deck. Yep, so I was thinking that too, but it might sound too insane. Isn't that right, Mr. Sprocket?
That would certainly be a much faster route to the Vista deck.
Objection!
I'm disappointed, Mr. Wright. Is that really the best you could muster? That escape hatch is not meant to be used to get from the reception hall to the Vista deck. One slip, and that's all it would take for Mr. Sprocket to plunge to his death.
I have to agree. The defense's claim is really stretching
Hold
it.
it!
I understand how it sounds, Your Honor. But at this point, it's too early to definitively say that he didn't go that way.
So that's what you're going with then, I take it.
Of course, Your Honor. This is real life, Mr. Wright, not some cinematic drivel or comic book. Do you have some sort of logical explanation to share that would convince us of your claim? I do. Are you sure, Nick? Kind of. Actually, I have nothing. So I'll just have to wing it somehow.
On what do you base your theory that Mr. Sprocket made his way along the outside?
My theory that he was able to go along the outside wall despite the danger is based on... the power of love. To save the bride he loves, the groom risked his life and rushed to her side. Mr. Sprocket was able to make it to the Vista deck despite the danger. Because the power of love.
The power of love? That love is a source of strength that can help one overcome any obstacle. I think I can relate, thanks to my own long, happy marriage.
Wow, he actually seems to be buying it.
Objection!
The power of love, you say? That kind of a logical argument is hardly viable in a court of law. Wouldn't you agree, Your Honor?
I'm afraid not, Mr. Edgeworth. You should never underestimate the power of love. You'll understand one day when you get married.
Which I won't. Exactly, what is so wrong with, wishing to remain unwed? Yeah, because Edgeworth has gotten criticized for this several times. Way to set him off, Your Honor. Never mind all this unscientific nonsense. Are you aware, Mr. Wright, that at the time of the crime... There was huge propeller turning at full speed between the hatch and the vista deck. Even if a person were to go outside through the hatch, they'd be blown away in an instant. Ah. Where does your power of love get you now, Mr. Wright?
A huge spinning propeller, you say? In that case, I have to admit it does seem impossible.
I should have known. Nick, you can't make that kind of face in front of your client. The worst times are when lawyers have to force their biggest smiles, right? Right. I feel like I just saw Mia looking out at me through Maya's eyes. What's wrong, Nick? Why are you gaping at me like a giant sunfish? Thank you, Maya. You just helped me remember something really important. There it is. There's that fearless smile I was looking for. Now give us a mind-blowing theory, just like you always do. I have to turn my thinking around. Instead of wondering how Sorin could have moved past that huge propeller, I have to think about what would have made it possible for him to do so. Your Honor, Mr. Wright only makes that ridiculous face when his back is pressed against the wall. Therefore, please do hurry and give your ruling before... Mr. Edgeworth, it's still far too early to discount my theory. What are you talking about? The airship's large spinning propellers have already shredded it to pieces. But if we think a little more outside the box, I'm sure we can find a way he could have made it. Stop trying to stall, Mr. Wright, and show us how it could have been even remotely possible, if at all.
I must agree with Mr. Edgeworth.
Very well, Your Honor. There must have been a way. Some way that Sorin could have moved along the wall in spite of the propeller.
Now then, Mr. Wright, what specifically would have made it possible?
This is how it would have been possible for Mr. Sprocket to get to the Vista deck. He got to the deck some other way. The airship wasn't flying. The propellers were broken. It's not theory number one. No, it's not that he got to the deck some other way. It's not that. The airship wasn't flying sounds like the most sense to me. The propellers were broken. If the propellers were broken, the ship would have gone down. The airship wasn't flying. What allowed Mr. Sprocket to go along the outside wall in the spider propellers? It wasn't flying, right? Because remember, Larry took a drawing of this, and this is that picture that was seen outside. Remember that, like, the bench hit? So it was grounded. What allowed Mr. Sprocket to go along the outside wall in spite of the propellers is the location of Flying Chapel at the time of the crime.
The location of the Flying Chapel? But wasn't it flying high in the sky?
No, Your Honor. I'm afraid it wasn't.
What? Then where was it?
At the time of the murder, the airship wasn't flying through the sky, but moored to the ground.
Oh, what?
And if the airship wasn't flying, then that means the propellers weren't turning. Oh, he's getting nervous now. Look at that clicking on the pen, yep. In which case, Mr. Sprocket could have gotten to the Vista deck along the outside wall. Isn't that right, Mr. Sprocket? Look, he just stabbed his finger. He twisted the pen by accident. I don't remember. He stabbed himself with his pencil. That's gonna leave a mark. Even if the propellers weren't turning, it would have been far too risky to go that way. Ah, Mr. Edgeworth. You're forgetting about the power of love.
Yes, the amazing power of love.
Not this again. Very well. For the sake of argument, let's assume the so-called power of love made it possible for Mr. Sprocket to move along the outside wall of the airship. Can you prove that the airship was tied to the ground as you claim, Mr. Wright? Oh, well, I don't have any evidence that proves where the airship was at the time. You can prove it, can't you? Maya, can you think of anything we can use to prove it? Yes, Larry's drawing. Can't say I can. Oh, wait. Didn't somebody see something outside a window at the time of the crime? I think I can remember someone saying as much. Yup, Larry. Do I have a piece of evidence that shows what was outside the airship? Yes. Well, what are you waiting for? This piece of evidence shows what was outside the airship at the time of the crime. Larry's drawing. This. A drawing Larry made. He probably mistook something for what he claims is a pterodactyl in the picture.
Take that!
This piece of evidence shows what was outside the airship at the time of the murder. What kind of lousy drawing is that? It's a drawing made by Larry Butts. And what can you prove with that poor attempt at artistry? Larry made this drawing before he switched to lanterns, so it must have been right around when the murder was being committed. Now, if I could direct the court's attention here.
Is that a pterodactyl? Does that mean the airship actually went back in time to the Cretaceous period?
Objection!
We've already proven that time travel is nothing more than a gimmick, did we not? We did, and I have no intention of bringing up that argument again. But this drawing shows us an important piece of information. It shows us that the airship was actually moored to the ground. And what makes you so sure? That's easy. All you have to do is consider who made this drawing. Larry. That's right. It was Mr. Butts. And we both know what he's like. He must have seen something else and mistaken it for a pterodactyl. I can't argue with you there. Hey, wait just one doggone second here. What kind of moron do you guys take me for? I saw it with my own eyes. The pterodactyl flew right by the window, I tell you. I have the sharp eyes of an artist. Don't you believe me? No. Nick! Nope. Some friends you guys are. What about the judge? You believe me, right, Your Honor?
I'm sorry, but I'm afraid you need to leave this courtroom. Bailiff, if you would.
Come on, buddy, let's go. Why doesn't anyone believe me? Don't take it personally, Larry. I know you're just being, well, you.
Now then. So you're saying that what Mr. Butts really saw bears some relation to what was outside the airship at the time of the murder?
Yes, Your Honor. At least I think it does. What this pterodactyl really is will prove the airship was anchored at the mooring dock. It had better anyway. If it doesn't, my whole argument is a bust.
If you're that confident about it, then please go ahead and tell us what it really was.
Yes, Your Honor. Think, Phoenix. What could that pterodactyl really have been? This.
Take that!
Please take a good look at this sign.
At the sign? It appears to have been broken and then repaired. But what does this sign have to do with the pterodactyl?
Please focus on this part of the sign. The part that broke off and got reattached? What about it? How about if we turn it like this?
Oh, that shape! It's a pterodactyl in the drawing.
What Mr. Butts actually saw was this chunk as it was being blown through the air by wind.
What?
On the day of the murder, there were heavy winds in the area of the mooring dock. But it's hard to imagine that this sign would make it up as high as an airship would fly. That means the flying chapel must have been anchored at the mooring dock that night. Isn't that right, Mr. Sprocket?
Objection!
That's more than enough of this power of love nonsense, you pop culture junkie. Present all the proof you want, but your argument is based far too much in conjecture. Why don't we return to reality now? What do you mean, too much conjecture? Even if the airship wasn't flying, that alone doesn't prove that the witness went along the wall.
True. Even now, it's no more than a possibility.
Then how do you propose Mr. Sprocket got to the Vista deck, Mr. Edgeworth? I noticed something as I went over the evidence. Please take a look at this hold entry record. What about it? Dumas, Gloomsbury, Pierce, Nickety, Ellen Wyatt. I don't see Mr. Sprocket listed on here anywhere. Don't you remember? In yesterday's session, we had a very similar kind of argument. Did we? Honestly, Mr. Wright, are you going senile already? We talked about Larry Butts using the defendant's keycard to enter the hold. Oh, we did talk about that, didn't we? In other words, even if a person's name isn't on the entry record, it's still possible for that person to have entered by using someone else's card. Aha! Mr. Sprocket, you entered the hold with Mr. Nickety, didn't you? I did. What? Why didn't you tell us that in the first place? But Pierce is indispensable. I didn't want to mention him unnecessarily, and risk having him wrongly accused. Well, he might be scared of him. I couldn't do without him.
Mr. Sprocket, I ask that you testify in greater detail about your movements that night.
He's protecting Pierce. The truth. The truth is, I went to the Vista deck with Pierce. That's why my name doesn't appear in the hold entry record. I was badly injured from being stabbed, but I was frantic. By the time we reached the scene, it was all over. Well, this doesn't help me one bit. Mr. Sprocket, you've concealed information from us time and time again. Why do you, who do you think you are treating this court of law with such irrelevance? Irrelevance. That being said, I do appreciate the testimony you gave just now. Thanks to you, we now know why your name doesn't appear on the entry record. Now there are no more inconsistencies in the witness's testimony. That's Mr. Edgeworth for you. He never leaves a loose end dangling. You okay, Nick? I wouldn't exactly call this situation okay. Somehow I'll have to coax the information we need for an opening out of him. If I even can, that is. The truth. The truth is, I went to the Vista deck with Pierce. Pierce has to be brought in to testify now. You didn't mention this because you didn't want Mr. Nickety to fall under suspicion. Is that because he has something to hide? And that's a good point. I just didn't want the police to take up his time with all their questions, that's all. Neither the company nor the household would function smoothly without him. I see. Wow, it sounds like Pierce is absolutely indispensable to the Sprockets. Anyway, getting back to your statement. When did you meet up with Mr. Nickety? We met up on my way to the Vista deck. I think Pierce and some of my relatives were on another floor, but Pierce heard the commotion and came running to my aid. He could hear the pandemonium all the way from another floor.
Mr. Wright, would you like the current statement added to the witness's testimony?
Have it added. Yes, please, Your Honor.
Very well.
Pierce heard the commotion, and he came running.
Hold it!
Did Mr. Nickety come alone? I believe some of his subordinates were with him, but I don't remember exactly how many. He may say there were others, but seeing how they pulled that second reception off, I can't completely trust anything he has to say either. I see. So you, Mr. Nickety, and a few others headed to the Vista deck, is that right? That's right. That's why my name doesn't appear on the hold entry record.
Hold it!
Your name doesn't appear on the hold entry record, because you entered with Mr. Nickety using his keycard. That's right. So I guess the hold entry record doesn't matter as much as we thought. But now that Sorin's saying he was with Pierce and a few others, it's pretty tough to refute that statement. What's the matter, Mr. Wright? Cat got your tongue? Did you finally realize there's no point in continuing this trial any longer? Of course not. I'll wipe that smug look off your face. Mr. Sprocket, please continue with your testimony. I was badly injured from being stabbed, but I was frantic.
Hold it!
Speaking of your injury, how are you doing now? The knife wound is deep, and continues to throb with pain. Fortunately, my internal organs were spared. But one wrong move would have spelled the end for me there. Even so, I've seen you up and about all over the place since the incident. I'm only following my doctor's orders to perform some daily light exercises.
Mr. Wright, would you like Mr. Sprocket's statement about his condition added to his testimony? Not that it appears especially relevant to me.
Should I have him added to his testimony? Let's have him added. More testimony can't hurt. Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to have it added to his testimony.
I see. Very well.
The knife wound is quite deep and continues to throb with pain.
Hold it!
Your injury was really that deep. Luckily, it missed my internal organs. Otherwise, I wouldn't be alive right now. According to his doctor, his injury will take about 3 weeks to heal. There's no way someone with that kind of injury could have gone along the outside wall. But he might have been able to with the burst of adrenaline brought on by the pain. Adrenaline. Is that your answer for everything? In a court of law, the only thing that matters is evidence, not rampant speculation. At least admit it's scientific rampant speculation. May I continue? Yes, of course. By the time we reached the scene, it was all over. So you still insist that you reached the Vista deck after the murder had occurred? Is that correct? Yes, that's right. Ellen must have killed him. There's no other explanation. I guess whether Pierce was with Sorin or not doesn't change the outcome. I guess not. In fact, more witnesses actually make it worse for us. So another cover-up, huh? That Sorin has too many secrets. I bet he's hiding other things too. That's definitely a possibility. But in a situation like this, what we have to do is go back to the basics. You mean go over the testimony and check for any lies or inconsistencies. You got it. Alright, Nick. Let's go for it. Okay. Pierce heard the commotion and he came running.
Hold it!
Did Mr. Nickety come alone? Hang on. Let me go back to that first statement.
Hold it!
He didn't want him he doesn't want him involved. I might make a mistake here. This is the hardest part of the testimony now.
Hold it!
The knife wound is quite deep. He didn't get stabbed with a knife, he got stabbed with this.
Objection!
He's calling it a knife. You just said your injury is a knife wound, didn't you? But the weapon you were stabbed with was his candelabra. A fact I know you're quite aware of. Very well. This is what I heard directly from Master Sorin himself. As you surmised, Master Sorin was stabbed by Gloomsbury on the day of the murder. It happened after the first wedding reception. The happy couple was in the reception hall when suddenly Gloomsbury appeared. He attacked Miss Ellen and tried to take her away. Master Sorin went to stop him and found himself in a struggle with Gloomsbury. That is when Master Sorin was stabbed with the candelabra, he said.
Objection!
It must have been a simple memory slip that made him misspeak. It happens to everyone. It has nothing to do with the case. No, it's very important. You must be pretty desperate to point out something so, minute.
I have to agree, Mr. Wright. You hardly need to make such a big deal over such a small mistake.
But I contend that it's an important inconsistency. Besides, I couldn't find anything else. This is the only thing I have to go after. And I say it's not important. Now let's not waste any more time on this matter.
I agree. Everybody has a little memory lapse every now and then.
But Your Honor, please let me explain.
But can you? Can you really explain to this court what makes this slip so important?
Yes, I can, Your Honor. After all, it was Sorin himself who told Pierce that he had been stabbed by a candelabra. This is more than a simple memory slip. There has to be some kind of reason for it. And yes, so, and here's the thing is, a really intelligent person like Sorin, who's constantly taking notes every single day, is not going to let that slip that he got stabbed by a knife instead of a candelabra.
Well, Mr. Wright, please explain why the witness's slip of the tongue is so important.
The point to focus on here is why the witness would mistake the weapon used to stab him. Think carefully, Phoenix. This could very well change the course of this trial.
I see. So why did the witness make that mistake, Mr. Wright?
Mr. Sprocket identified the wrong weapon used against him because... he has no memory of it? No. It's not he misspoke. It's either he's covering for someone or he has no memory of it. He's covering for someone. Mr. Sprocket is trying to cover for someone.
He is? And who might that be?
Oh, well, Mr. Gloomsbury maybe. Why Mr. Sprocket tried to cover up for the man who stabbed him? And regardless of the weapon, the fact remains Mr. Gloomsbury stabbed the witness.
Exactly, Mr. Edgeworth.
Yeah, sorry, Nick, but I have to agree. Guess that makes sense. Okay.
Too bad there's no, one to cover for you, Mr. Wright.
Okay, okay, so it has to be the other one. He has no memory of it. He doesn't remember the incident, let alone the weapon used against him. Not only that, but I believe Mr. Sprocket has some sort of memory disorder. Therefore, the defense contends Mr. Sprocket's testimony thus far is invalid. Just because you can't find a flaw in his testimony, you want to throw it all out? Your basis claim is nothing but pure slander of the witness's character.
Mr. Edgeworth is correct, Mr. Wright. Can you explain your grounds for making this claim?
His notebook? Of course, Your Honor. Think of what Sorin has said, and how he's behaved. That's where I'll find a clue.
Very well. Let's hear your argument then.
Maybe after the accident he had some kind of memory problem. My grounds for claiming Mr. Sprocket has memory disorder is... his notebook. Yeah, his notebook. The notebook he always has with him. I saw daily events and information about the people around him recorded in it.
Like a diary, perhaps?
No, Your Honor. It's much too detailed to be an ordinary diary. It's more in the journal order of a database, actually.
A database, you say?
That's right. For some reason, Mr. Sprocket is apparently unable to retain memories. That's why he writes every little detail of his life down in his notebook. How could you possibly know that for sure? He might just be an extremely compulsive person. I thought so too myself at first. To be honest, we accidentally got a stain on that notebook yesterday. You mean you got a stain on it? Hey, you're the one who tried to grab it out of mine. Never mind whose fault it was, just get to the point already. Right, sorry. Mr. Sprocket. The page Miss Faye got a stain on yesterday. That's the page with the details of your stabbing on it, isn't it? No, I only write in this notebook because I'm very compulsive. Now drop the subject already. Sorry, but I'm not, convinced. I know it's an odd fact about your notebook, Mr. Sprocket. On the earlier pages, you used it to write down invention ideas. But after a certain date, you started writing down a lot more, and in much more detail. After the accident. I believe your memory disorder stems from what happened on that date.
Something so monumental it caused memory disorder, Mr. Wright.
You don't know what you're talking about. Sorry, but I do know what I'm talking about, and this is the proof. This is the thing that caused Mr. Sprocket's memory disorder. The car accident. A vehicular accident on March 8th led to the death of Sorin's older sister. Sorin was also in the car and suffered severe injuries. Gloomsbury had been the one driving. This one, the newspaper article.
Take that!
You were involved in this car accident too, weren't you, Mr. Sprocket? And the shock of losing your beloved older sister is what caused you to develop your memory disorder. Is this true, Mr. Sprocket?
Well, is it?
Mr. Sprocket. It's true. That accident did something to my mind. What? Ever since that day, every time I go to sleep, I lose my memories. And when I wake up, the most recent thing I can remember is the day I lost my sister. It's as if I'm constantly going back in time.
What? That's truly tragic.
An inconsolable time traveler who goes back in time whenever he goes to sleep. So that's why this case is called Time Traveler. It's not based on actually traveling through time. It's the fact that every single time he wakes up, he loses his memories, and he remembers that tragic event. Besides, time travelers do exist, you know. But you wouldn't understand. So that's what Sorin meant. He was talking to himself. The reactions of the people around me each time I awoke made me aware of my condition. That's why I decided to write everything down in my notebook. So I can move forward. So the only memories you have since that day are the ones written in that notebook. That's right. And since the page about your stabbing got stained, you couldn't read from it, could you? There's just one more thing I'd like you to clarify for me, Mr. Sprocket. Exactly what are your feelings towards the victim?
Mr. Sprocket's feelings towards Dumas Gloomsbury.
That's right, Your Honor. The witness said that every time he wakes up from sleep, his mind goes back to the day his sister died. Mr. Wright, you can't mean... Mr. Sprocket. Your pent-up feelings of anger and resentment towards Mr. Gloomsbury for the accident were renewed each and every time you woke, were they not? Yeah. But you couldn't take it anymore, so you turned to murder. Isn't that right?
What? Mr. Wright, are you saying the witness murdered Mr. Gloomsbury? For revenge?
Well, Mr. Sprocket? It's probably gonna be Pierce. It's probably Pierce. No, it's Ellen. Miss Wyatt. Your Honor. I did it. I killed Mr. Gloomsbury. No! Oh, no, he said to...
Well, what?
Miss White, what are you trying to do? Don't tell me you're still thinking of going that route. Sorin is innocent. He can't be found guilty. Take me instead. Ellen, please. Try and get a hold of yourself. I guess she really meant it. My Sorin didn't do anything wrong. I'm the one who should be convicted.
Are we to understand that you're confessing your guilt?
No, no, no! Now wait just a minute here. Ellen, why would you cover for me? After I testified that I thought you must have killed him. I'll admit, I couldn't believe my ears at first. But all I want is for you to be happy. Your happiness is my happiness, Sorin. But without my notebook, I'd even forget those feelings of yours by tomorrow. Knowing that, do you still feel this way? You've loved me all this time. The same way you did before the accident. That's how I know that you're the same person I've always loved. No disorder can change that. Ellen. Your Honor, there are two things I'd like to correct.
2 corrections? What are they?
First of all, I want to withdraw one of my statements. That's right. Dumas was killed by Ellen. Without memories to rely on, I took the police completely at their word. You can't be serious. So that means Sorin never really doubted Ellen in the first place, did he, Nick? Ellen really does love Sorin with all her heart. But in order to save her, I'll still have to go after Sorin. I hope you can forgive me, Ellen.
And what is your other correction, Mr. Sprocket?
The truth is, I never felt anger or resentment towards Dumas about my sister. What? Why not? That's because the one who caused the car accident was me. What? How?
Order in the court.
Wait a second. Bloomsbury had been the one driving, but how could he have caused the accident then?
Please continue, Mr. Sprocket.
I'm the one who killed my sister. To protect my career and my future, my father made Dumas take the blame. In exchange for money in the position of lead servant. A clipping of a newspaper article about Selena Sprocket's car accident. Sorin was the one driving. So you see, Dumas must have held a grudge against me, not the other way around. And he must have attacked Ellen to get his revenge on me. Are you sure about all this, Mr. Sprocket? Very sure. It's all been written down in detail in my notebook.
That notebook is important evidence supplying background to this case. I must insist you submit it as evidence.
Sorin's notebook, a database-like notebook that chronicles the events of each day in minute detail. The lawyer said I had turned to murder, but that's just not true. However, it is true that my older sister and Dumas are both dead because of me and my negligence.
I just glanced through Mr. Sprocket's notebook. I wasn't able to read the part about when he was stabbed due to a bloodstain. But what's written here about his sister's car accident is exactly as he stated.
Your Honor, as long as it matches what's written in that notebook, Sorin had been writing nothing but ideas for his inventions in this until March 8th of last year, when he abruptly began to chronicle the events of each day in excruciating detail. However, details of the day of the murder have been rendered illegible by a bloodstain. Can we still take the witness's testimony as valid in spite of his memory disorder?
Yes, I believe we can.
No, you can't. No. It's like, even if the person wrote everything down in the notebook, it's like, if the person has a memory disorder, no, you cannot allow them to testify. It's ridiculous. I understand now that the witness's memory is in disarray. But if what Mr. Sprocket himself wrote in his notebook is true, then that means by the time Mr. Sprocket's party reached the scene, the victim had already been killed. Edgeworth's right. I'm still in the same bind as before. But should I really simply accept the contents of the notebook as a substitute for Sorin's memory?
Well, Mr. Wright, what do you think? Will you accept Mr. Sprocket's notebook as an official representation of his memories?
Well, I accept Mr. Sprocket's notebook as an official representation of his memories. No. Wait a minute, Your Honor. The defense requests a chance to examine the notebook to see if it's trustworthy.
Very well, but be quick about it.
Thank you, Your Honor. So how should we examine it? Well, we should look at it from all different angles to see if there's anything suspicious. There's no point if I don't look at what's inside. I have to open it. With your permission, Sorin, here I go. Yikes. Oh, it's just the page Maya got all stained. But I guess it's not going to be very helpful at this moment. I'll keep going. This is the last page where there's writing. Something about this page doesn't sit right with me. Wait a second. Wait. Okay, something's ripped out. I better take a closer look. Huh? A page has been torn out, and it looks like there was something written on it. It looks like a page has been torn out here. Mr. Sprocket, do you know what was written on it? Oh, that... I often tear out a page when I write somebody a note. I probably wrote something down for somebody, tore it out, and gave it to them. Oh yeah. That solves that then. Wait a minute. We can't ignore the possibility something important was written on that page.
But now that page has been torn out. How can we determine what was written there?
Well, let's see. To find out what was written in the notebook, we should hold it to the light. Maybe fingerprint powder. It's definitely not heated with a lighter. That's just stupid. You're gonna burn the book. If we use fingerprint powder on the notebook, we might be able to see what was written.
Fingerprint powder? How would that help us find out what was written there?
Well, if the writing left indentations on the blank page behind it, yep. Fingerprint powder could make those small indentations visible to the naked eye. Oh, stop. Fingerprint powder would only sully the notebook further.
Mr. Wright, if you use the powder and still don't find anything, then you must accept the notebook as a representation of the witness's memories.
Alright, Your Honor. I understand. If I don't find anything, it's all over anyway. Powder, don't fail me now. I will now use the fingerprint powder on the blank page to find out if we can see what was written on the torn out page. First, I'll apply some fingerprint powder to these pages with X. When I've dusted on enough powder, I'll use blow triangle to blow the excess powder away anyway. If something should appear, I should switch to analyze mode, L1. Point to what came up and then confirm my choice. Okay, let's hope that there's something here, because if we don't find it, our case is screwed. Dumas took Ellen to the Vista deck. And what's this? What's this? I struck and killed Dumas. Well, this should be enough. It says I struck and killed Dumas. This is huge. I struck and killed Dumas. That's what was written on the torn out page.
What?
It can't be. I don't believe it. There has to be some kind of mistake. Sorin would never, could never. Did she just faint? Miss Wyatt.
Bailiff, please get the defendant to the infirmary at once. Apparently, the defendant got too worked up. She's resting in the infirmary as we speak. Now then, please continue, Mr. Wright.
Yes, Your Honor. This notebook is all Mr. Sprocket has to remember things by. With this critical page torn out, not even Mr. Sprocket himself knew the truth of what he'd done. I'm the one who killed Dumas? So it wasn't Ellen. Oh, thank goodness. Mr. Sprocket, does that mean you were at the crime scene during the murder after all? I guess I must have been. A notebook that records Sorin's memories in minute detail. One of the pages has been torn out. Mr. Sprocket, can we really believe what's written in this notebook? Nobody touches this notebook but me. And when I sleep, it's under lock and key. I don't remember writing that I killed Dumas, but I guess I must have. But the writing was very different on that page than the other writing.
Well, now that we have a confession, I'm afraid I must render my verdict.
Of all the... Yes, Your Honor. Please give your ruling now, while Ellen is asleep. I want the woman I love to be set free as soon as possible. Sorin really does love Ellen after all, doesn't he? Yeah. But this is how it ends. But is that how it really went down? No, it's Pierce. Pierce is the killer. Is there really no way for them both to be happy?
I know we should consider anything written in the notebook to be truth, but still.
I myself wrote of the crimes in my notebook. No further proofs necessary. Sorin himself wrote it in his notebook. But here's the question, though. If he wrote that he killed Dumas, why did he rip it out and give it to someone? Wait a minute.
Very well. I will now give my verdict.
Ellen is about to be found not guilty, and Sorin will be convicted for the crime instead. And yet, am I really ready for the judge to give his ruling? No. No, not when there's still one more avenue left to explore.
This court finds the defendant Ellen Wyatt.
Your Honor, there's still something that bothers me about that notebook.
Oh, is there?
What are you doing, Mr. Wright? All you have to do is keep quiet, and your client's a free woman. I know, but I think there might be more to this case than meets the eye. I'm not quite sure yet, but I think there still might be a way. A way for Ellen and Sorin to be happy.
What do you mean by more than meets the eye, Mr. Wright?
I believe the question here, Your Honor, should be, why was the incriminating page torn out in the first place? Yep, he said it, exactly what I said earlier. Why was it torn out?
Why? To destroy the evidence, I would imagine.
But removing it from the notebook is the same as removing it from Mr. Sprocket's memory. Which means he wouldn't have been able to trick the police if he came under suspicion. No, if he wanted to cover up his crime, he would have to remember that he had done it. Just what are you getting at with this line of inquiry, Mr. Wright?
Yes, please explain it so that we can all understand.
Yes, Your Honor. The page was torn out of the notebook because... He wanted to forget what happened. He was torn out by accident. Someone else tore it out. The incriminating page was torn out by somebody else.
What? Order! Order! Are you claiming a third person interfered with the notebook?
It's not all that surprising if you consider what's happened up until now. After both the car accident and the murder of Dumas Bloomsbury. There was always a cover-up not far behind. But I had my notebook with me at all times. Did you? Because I remember you were in a panic yesterday because you couldn't find it. That's true. So who orchestrated this particular cover-up, Mr. Wright? If we think back over the course of the trial, it's pretty easy to guess. The one who may have tried to tamper with Sorin's memories is... Pierce Nickety. The Sprocket family butler. He seems to be usually attached to the pocket watch he carries around.
Take that!
The one who tampered with the notebook in order to manipulate Mr. Sprocket's memory. And here, that's the motive right there. That is the motive. Is he was pissed off at Sorin for getting his fiancée killed, because I believe that Sorin's sister Selena was his fiancée, because the pocket watch that he carries is the same pocket watch that's in Selena's picture right here. So he was pissed at Sorin for the accident. It's Pierce Nickety. Pierce? Pierce tried to tamper with my memories? Pierce was manipulating me? Case in point, the 2 receptions that were held to cover up the murder. It was Mr. Nickety who directed the guests and orchestrated the entire scheme. No, it can't be. Which of my memories are mine, and which have been rewritten? When did he start rewriting my memories? Who wrote this? And this, and this? And this, and this, and this, and this, and this? Ah! What the? What the hell? He literally took off.
What?
Look, Nick, he's coming back now. My memories, Ellen. Mr. Sprocket.
Bailiff, please get Mr. Sprocket to the infirmary on the double. Mr. Sprocket has been taken to the infirmary. We don't have to worry about him running away, so let's resume where we left off.
Your Honor, the defense would like to call Pierce Nickety to the stand.
Objection!
We already know he carried out the cover-up to protect the company and Mr. Sprocket. What more do you want from him? This time it's different. The notebook, or rather Mr. Sprocket's memories, have been tampered with. That means the only person who knows the whole truth is now Mr. Nickety. Don't tell me, are you actually trying to drum up a third suspect in order to exonerate the defendant and her groom? I'm not drumming up anything, nor do I have grounds to accuse him of anything, yet. All I know is that Mr. Nickety is the only one who knows the truth. And I think he's still hiding something. Something we don't know about yet. No grounds yet, is it?
Well, Mr. Edgeworth, does the prosecution consent to calling the witness to the stand?
It does, Your Honor. However, I would like a little time to talk with the witness before we do.
Very well. We will break for a 20-minute recess.
Okay, so yeah, it looks like my assumption was right, that Pierce is the killer. I'm 99% certain he's the killer. Sorin is innocent. And why Sorin got stabbed by Dumas, I don't know. We'll figure it out. And, you know, and there's still one thing that doesn't make sense to me. If Pierce wanted revenge on Sorin for getting Selena killed with the car crash, then why did he just kill Sorin? Why did he, go through this entire like long and complicated thing with, getting, Dumas killed, and then that's the thing that just doesn't add up here. So something's not right here. But I guess we'll see in the next part. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this part. I'm actually enjoying this trial a lot. A lot of people told me this trial is kind of average, but I actually enjoyed this trial. So thank you guys for watching. See you in the next one. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful day, guys.